ambushed by her cats at any given moment. But let's not talk about ambushes from cats. Let's talk about ambushes from our players, including, of course, Salvyy from a Golden Spatula Cup #1, our champion from there. Right now, again, these are our players fighting to try and stay in the front of the pack.
We have some players we saw in the last game as well. Travis, who ended up 8th despite having a very, very good start. So hopefully trying to bounce back from that. Skipaeus as well coming in. And Qetzer, a player we saw a bit of last set. He played Mortdog Madness with the French team, if I'm not mistaken, that ended up getting 6th, or 2nd rather, to the NA team that ended up winning. So a player we've seen before in tournaments, and definitely a player that can show up in big moments like this one. And Salvyy, I mean, nothing more to say. Yesterday, we had him on stream. He won that game 6 to really send a message that he still is trying to maybe, win back-to-back GSCs. Is that even possible, Counterfeit?
Certainly, I don't think it's precedented before, but it would be an incredible thing for a player to be able to do. I mean, when you're in the same tournament with people who are, say, EMEA champions, as Double 61 has, building up your own legacy is absolutely important. But a small note before we get too deep into this game is we noted that most of the players in this lobby have 16 points. The cutoff right now is 14. But Travis and Org, they both got 15 points each. So if either Travis or Org end up towards the bottom half, that's going to hurt them much more than the other players.
A rod start here for Texita with 2 Tom Kenches and a Heimerdinger. Not ideal, maybe. You're going to want more AD items if you are going to go into that cannoneer angle. But again, too early to say what direction these players will be taking for now. But I mean, you find a Jinx as well. Maybe it is the option. You do find the Heimer there and hope for a few more trainers in the next few shops.
Oh my gosh, I think the RNG Mortdog is sending their message from above that they want you to play through Revel. So pretty good as a start for Texita, even if the items will need a little bit of massaging. A small note though, before we go too much further, Duelist Dexterity going to be our Mirage for today. I know that's certainly on the ladder a pretty popular choice, Mirage.
And this Jinx, I mean, Peter, do you go for the Jinx reroll carry game at this point? Is that the angle or no?
I want to see it. I think if enough Jinxes come through, then just maybe. We'll see. So we're going to see our first augments coming in. Axe him out, blue batteries, very mana focused. Going to be re-rolled instead though. Hot shot, pretty popular, but it will be taken, and that's going to be the second Tristana in there for Qetzer.
Ooh, Skarner 2 as well. If you want to go level 4 here, which I think you might not want to in this case. I'm not sure if Qetzer thinks he's strong enough with a Skarner 2, but he can't really sell anything either. He doesn't have the gold for it. He has to sell off either the Tom Kench and the Senna, and I think that's not really the way to go. So, oh, never mind. He's looking for that board strength right away. He's hoping to win streak with a Skarner 2, sells the Tom Kench to do so.
I do like there being a strong front line here, because with the hot shot we've got coming in as the first augment, you're going to be able to burn through the opposition. And of course, right now, Nomsy is incredibly fragile, so having a meaty front line should hopefully allow for that cast to actually go through and get Qetzer off to the races here against Travis.
And Qetzer's putting himself in a position where he's just one little high roll away from having a very, very good start. If he's able to find that Tristana 2-star and have that Nomsy growing at an unprecedented rate, he might be very, very strong going to stage 3 and 4.
Oh, for sure. I mean, the difference it makes to have those 2 stars in early on, just exponentially stronger as... Hello, hello, hello. It looks like we've got ourselves a whole bunch of Jays turning up here for Crescent.
Jade, of course, we saw in the last game, the last 2 players were playing that Shioyu angle with Nico with the 6 Jade comps, and that might be what Crescent is going to hope to go for here, having to only play 2 of the Jade units, not having to really play kind of the worst units like Ashe or maybe even Karma when she's unitemized at this stage of the game. Instead, playing the Thresh for Guardian, also for just the very cheeky hooks in the early game that can just win out fights directly, and the Aatrox.
All right, let's talk about the augments we're seeing here, though. We have got a decent amount of combat augments coming in across the field here. One that is standing out for me, though, for Skipaeus, is I believe that's the Essence Theft creeping in for them.
Yeah, we're going to see what his board looks like to have committed to that augment if he maybe just didn't have any other better choices. But Salvyy definitely watched the last game because he did pick up Cybernetic Shell to start things off.
Like all good soldiers well. The Crescent's doing pretty darn well with the Jade set up here for the time being, up against the Celestial Blessing of Traviscwat again. Travis, one of the players who does need to finish out well from this lobby if they're going to stand any chance of making it through to day 3. It's going to be a tight run to the end, though.
Yeah, the Sunfire Cape proving how and why it's so strong in stage 2. The Nunu able to win that fight there. And Xcrescent takes a loss, unfortunately for him.
I love seeing players emoting when that kind of thing happens, just so you can be completely clear exactly how salty they are about that loss.
See, now the Greek player that we haven't seen much of in this tournament, at least I haven't been very familiar with him and his results in the past day and today as well, but currently looking to go into the Lee Sin angle, but really for how long? I think this is going to be just a placeholder until Nico is found much later into the game, and a lot of upgrades already for this board, so a little gold to work with, but a lot of board strength and potentially a very big win streak here.
Yeah, looking real good. Of course, that Jade healing based on a percentage of health, so with the Warmogs as well, that Lee Sin just refuses to die. Org set up really well here to be a very strong threat to the rest of the lobby.
And actually, I did play a lot of Jade yesterday. I have got word in, well, not my microphone, we're not that fancy here with the production. To get word from Megs, and he did play yesterday, so actually seems like a comfort comp here for him. Getting a very good start for Jade makes it that much easier. Sometimes when you're forcing a comp that you're comfortable with and you don't have the right start for it, it can be a disaster, but in this case, everything going perfectly for Aug. It looks like the Greek player might put up a very good result in this game 4 as well.
So let's take the temperature of the lobby overall. Texita and Org both undefeated so far. Travis and Salvyy just below them with a couple of L's on their belt. There's nobody in the lobby I'm noticing here who's got those low HP totals we've seen in some other games. Everyone's fairly closely cohering.
And the comps for now have looked like a lot of Cannoneers and a lot of Jade. That's been my read on the current situation across most of these lobbies. We're seeing that Texita here has picked up the Gold Collector. Did end up slamming that Rabadons when he had the double rod that I mentioned that might not be ideal for Cannoneers. And we kind of joked about seeing a Jinx carry game, maybe, or we have too much power, Peter, because it seems to be the angle that Texita's taking here.
We're very influential people, don't you know? But yeah, I'm fascinated to see how this works out here. There's certainly particular formations that Jinx works very well into, and other ones where she ends up whiffing most of her shots. We'll be able to at least have a go at the Lee Sin. He'll be able to hold still for a little while and the pound the damage in. But it's going to be really tight here, and the second win kicking in means I think Org will have to settle for only a 3-win streak because Lee Sin blows up everything.
It's not looking good for the Jinx carry game. I just think Jinx is a little bit too unreliable simply because of how her kit is designed. She's good as kind of a secondary carry that can sometimes put in the work with her ability, but as a main carry, as a main damage dealer outside of maybe stage 2 and 3, she really just can't be relied on to really put in the work.
We get to check in with Salvyy for a second then. We did see some Rage Wings knocking around, but we're going to stick with Org for now because they are one round away from bringing their streak through and past Crux. A whole bunch of extra gold. She said Org with the potential to build a really strong board later on if they've got the money to do it with.
Especially with these upgrades, with second win, with kind of the Warmogs as well. I mean, especially if he finds his Lee Sin too, that's going to be just such a stable board for so long. If he finds an early Xiaoyu or a Nico, definitely a player that I see almost guaranteed to make a top 4.
All right, let's see. Is Salvyy strong enough to take down this undefeated Org? It doesn't seem likely. We have got the burn to try and get rid of the Lee Sin. The Tempest proc as well. It's going to be pretty tight, but the front line is just not quite good enough. Salvyy, despite being his second coming into that one, will take the L to push him down the table, and Org gets through stage 2 completely clean.
Not just that, but he's taking off a lot of HP from every other player because these are massive wins. These are 5-unit wins when you have things like a second win, when the Lee Sin is not dying because of Warmogs as well. It means that every player is really paying that in this stage 2 and taking some big hits.
All right, so, Org very happy with where they are right now. Skipaeus down at the bottom on 66. Noted them before as the Essence Theft player, so we have to be keeping an eye out for them later on. Of course, as we get our economy coming up, anyone grabbing you here, Panda?
Skipaeus is on the bottom end, but has the most gold to work with, so maybe sacrificing some of that board strength hoping to just lose streak and have more gold than the rest of the players and find those key units in a level 6 or level 7 roll down. Key units like Siphon. Aug right away gets gifted a Siphon from the Krug, some kind of shady business deal being done behind the scenes. But maybe not a player that would have benefited the most from having this Siphon. It seems like he's pretty dead set on playing this Jade board, and he also has just a lot of upgrades, so it feels even worse to have to change them out for a Siphon. But I do still think you do, right? I mean, Siphon is just so strong in stage 3.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's what a lot of players will bemoan seeing exactly this kind of situation turn up when you've got access to one of the highest priority units so very early on. So it will be slammed in. Looks like we might be actually holding on to the Lee Sin for the time being and using him as a tank while turning instead Siphon to be more a damage dealer up against Travis, who I can't think they're going to stand a chance against this board.
And I have a feeling, if it's possible, this might be a 3-2 level 7 from Aug if he wants to go full tempo to get that Taric back in, get Jade back in, and really try and smurf on this lobby and push this win streak all the way throughout stage 3.
So talk to me about this plan. What are the kind of key features you're looking out for to try and make that kind of decision? I'm going to go all in here on this win streak. I think I can do it.
It's all about seeing, how much that would spike you. You're going to ruin your economy, yes, but if you're able to go 7, if you're able to get a combat augment like Stand United, for example, maybe, with all these different trades in, with Jade coming in as well, so 6 different traits active. Oh my god, it's Shio Yu. Well, I guess you have Jade now anyway. I don't know what business deals were done behind the scenes here, but a lot going in favor for this Greek player. And I said before he was going to be a guarantee for a top 4. Now I will double down on this prediction because everything is really working out for him here.
Yeah, and as Mex has been telling us, all barely getting into today at all, only 1 point above the tiebreaker. What a thing it would be for them to come out of this really crucial lobby with a big win. I mean, if you're streaking this far into the game, surely you're at least guaranteed a top 4.
Skipaeus, Portable Forge, Essence Theft, Trainer 3. Is this Taric going to be tanky enough with a triple itemization to survive against the current 100 HP win streaker in Aug? The Greek player trying his best, Shio Yu trying his best, and I think his best will do and will be enough to take down the Taric. Heimerdinger was a MVP before in game 3, but not so much in this fight. 1v6, not gonna be able to do it.
I mean, Skipaeus, I couldn't think of any one of these two, to go up against each other, the win streak against the loss streaker. Both of them keep their streaks intact, but Skipaeus is playing with fire here in day number 2. And maybe that's the right thing to be doing when you need to be hitting these high finishes. You can't afford to do anything but play on the bleeding edge.
Even for players that are as creative and as experienced with game knowledge and different lines and different possibilities as Skipaeus is, it's sometimes difficult to go for these paths that are a little bit less traveled, like Essence Theft, for example, like a comp like this one, and still perform well. We're seeing here, I think it's just really not working out. 7 loss streak, very few upgrades as well, so unlucky in that sense as well. And he has to turn this around before we get to the end of stage 3.
Texita will be more than happy to come in and farm them for all they're worth. The board which we've got right now for Skipaeus isn't too bad. Unfortunately, that Taric front line is certainly no Nico and won't be able to stand up in the same kind of way. The loss streak will stay intact, hoping to get rid of one more unit to soften the loss, but it's not to be. Skipaeus keeps on trucking, but they're getting perilously close, down to almost half as much as Kaspersky above them.
I would love to check out Texita because all of a sudden, it looks like those Jinx ults are doing so much more damage. That's because Jewel Lotus was picked up as a second augment, so maybe the Jinx carry game we prophesied might actually be a thing, at least for now. At least for stage 3, it might be the situation here because he's still doing very well for himself on the upper side of the HP bracket here, 76 HP for Texita.
As we check in on our components and of course our carousel coming in here at the midpoint of stage 3, we can see Salvyy and Texita both keeping their options pretty open item-wise. And that's particularly impressive for Salvyy, given that they're in second place with a couple of items unslammed.
Yeah, usually it's kind of an inverse pyramid where the most components are on the lower side of the HP because they just haven't gotten their board strength, the immediate slams going in. They're trying to save up for best in slot item. They're trying to save up for just having more possibilities open, as you mentioned. But Salvyy, 84 HP and had a lot of components on the bench, it looked like.
And it's particularly ironic, we saw briefly from them there, that they're actually going heavily into the cybernetic side of things, so would definitely benefit from getting those items out on the field. And we'll see what Texita is up to on the beginning of a potential win streak. They've got themselves a Tristana with the Infinity Edge. And of course, the harvesting Jinx. We'll see how they do against a pile of Cavaliers.
Just all the units in a line waiting for that Jinx ult. The damage going to come through. Will it be enough? So much gold with Gold Collector as well. Going to be a second ult here in line, but is it going to be enough damage? It's going to be close, but not quite. A little bit too much HP to work with there, and Senna can't do it as a secondary carry, so unfortunate. But still, it's a lot of gold being printed. Texita is currently level 7. He's not level 6 at this stage of the game. He has 30 gold with, so gold-wise, he's doing very well for himself. And in terms of board strength, it's not too bad despite that loss.
Yeah, I'm sure they would love to have a spear or even a blue buff here to get the Jinx casting a little bit faster. But for what it is, it's working pretty darn well. We're up to level 7 now, so unfortunately I think we're pretty much out of the Jinx reroll area. Panda, from where you're sitting, where would you like to see Texita take this current setup later on?
Heimer's in the shop. He can put in Trainer now. It is, of course, very, very late. Could swap out for the Sejuani, but it seems like he's not going to opt to do so. Maybe an indication he's not really going to be going into Cannoneers, into that Trainer angle for the late game. Going to pivot off of this into maybe a better AP carry than Jinx as we move into stage 4.
And as was actually pointed out by Sai, and we'll see for ourselves in short order as well, Org has lost their win streak now towards the tail end of stage number 3, so they did incredibly well early on, but I think we're seeing, that Org, even without a win streak, is still a menace at the top of the table.
Yeah, 90 HP is going to give him a big HP buffer to really try and transition into the strongest comp he can and try and guarantee good results. As you mentioned at the very beginning of this game, Peter, all these players are just barely off of the cutoff. They're currently in position 17 to the 20s in the current standings. A top 4 here for any of these players puts them in a very good spot to just defend that lead they have and just do well in the next 2 games and qualify for day 3.
As we check in on our economy at the end of stage number 3, we can see that there is still a lot of gold going around, with Qetzer being the big exception there on a 2-round win streak, but down to 4 gold. It's at level 7, but that's really all they've got to save themselves in a very perilous spot.
A little bit too many tank items here for Qetzer. Unfortunately, the Warmogs will be fantastic, but then you had an extra stone plate that maybe isn't going to fit perfectly onto this Idas. Because he already has a Mogul's Mail as well. So I would have loved, I think, for the Shimmer Skull item to maybe be a damage item instead, just to work out perfectly. Instead, now going to have kind of a bit of an extra, stone plate components on the bench here that he can't really make the best use out of. He can maybe build a QSS on Tristana, but that's not really going to be that impactful.
No, that's going to be a little bit disappointing here with no obvious defensive options to make use of these extra items. Qetzer has got a good amount of money in the bank though, so they should be feeling okay as we check in with Xcrescent here. So more Jade coming to the field, and we've already got a Yasuo mixing things up. So far unitemized, but that knock-up is always ridiculous.
Even as a 1-star, just the stall that Yasuo was able to bring forward, allowing Xiaoyu to really shine and get his DPS going, is just so valuable at any stage of the game, even at the very start of stage 4. And we're seeing it here. Big win for Crescent. Qetzer gets taken down to 42 HP, and Skipaeus, it seems like he's continuing to bleed here, down to 28.
We find ourselves our last augment of the game here in game number 4. It's going to be gold across the board, so pretty substantial amount of augment influence. As we see from Qetzer here, they have maintained a laser focus on their Cannoneers. 2 of them so far. Now we've got a chance to build in a little bit more defensive value with the Exiles.
And this could be dangerous. This forces you into very specific positioning. I think Qetzer is taking into account, I think there aren't any assassin players, for example, in this lobby, but this does sometimes feel bad. When you pick this, you think, I'm getting some board check, I'm getting some shielding on my units, but then in the late game, you feel pigeonholed into very specific positioning that can be, it can be a vulnerability if you go up against players that are trying to abuse that.
All right, well, let's see if Qetzer is able to avoid having that happen, as they will be going up against the pile of mages and siphons. Kapelski has put together for themselves a strong front line for the siphon. Not too much of a back line to speak of, though.
I think it's, Siphon 2 is all you need at this point in the game. I don't think you need a front line or a back line. Just Siphon doing his thing. He can really just 1v7, 1v8 at this point in the game. We're seeing it here. Tristana, the only real DPS on the side of Qetzer, gets taken down immediately, which means that the rest of this fight will be a slow grind, but should definitely be a win here for Kaspersky, as we're seeing Siphon untouched in terms of his HP, and Qetzer continuing to fall, now down to 7th place.
Oh boy, no, absolutely, you're right there, but oh, hello. We found our 1%, and I think it's going to end up being played, so the Shyvana sneaking through to the shop there, but we'll check back with them later. We're going to have a chance. Skipaeus, though, they may not have that chance. They did start to build up a little win streak before from the bottom of the table, but now they've been thrown back down again. They have no money and only 14 HP.
When you have a Heimerdinger as an off tank with some fire, something has gone terribly wrong in this case. Idas 1 as well will not be helping, and this Siphon trying to walk right into that backline will also not be good news for Skipaeus. If it's a big enough loss here, which it might be, this could just be GG right away. Right, that Siphon kills off the big DPS on the side of Skipaeus, and this could be trouble. He's not able to do it.
Yeah, I mean, you're right, this one's pretty much over the second the backline is accessed. Skipaeus going to take the big L and just about survive a reprieve, but as we see from Skipaeus, they've got no money to be able to significantly change what their board is doing.
Bard in the carousel could be big for all the different Cannoneer players we're seeing here. Soraka with a bow, also maybe an appealing option, but not really as kind of impactful as a Yasuo could be, for example.
No, and I mean, that's going to be very disappointing for our players at the bottom of the table right now. They would probably be hoping to find something big on this carousel, a good itemized carry to be able to throw into their comp, but instead, it's not to be. So Skipaeus down on 3, Qetzer just above them. The rest of the field looking somewhat more healthy, with a big gap between our top 4 and bottom 4, with Org back on a win streak after having it broken before.
Anivia 2 picked it up as well, so even some upgrades coming in for that player, and again, 90 HP at this point in the game. You have to be feeling so comfortable if you are AUG, especially with those upgrades coming in. Nunu 2, Salvyy finds a Corki 2 that could be massive and stabilizing at 21 HP and trying to go for a top 4, but there's a huge disparity between the current top 4 and the bottom 4. 26 points of HP separating 4th and 5th right now.
Texita will be the next challenger for Skipaeus. It could very well be the end of the line for them here. We've got the Deja in the backline doing good work, and a gold collector on the Lilia as well. We'll be able to start tearing into the backline, but no, the front line of Texita actually collapses, and that means Skipaeus gets to live another day.
And the transition that we were maybe expecting does end up coming through. That Jinx becomes a Deja on the side of Texita, but is it going to be enough with the itemization, with the Jeweled Lotus, for the Deja to pop off to have enough damage to win some of these fights near the end here? It doesn't look like it. I mean, 19 HP for him. The rest of the players, 6th, 7th, and 8th, all in single digits and one loss away from being taken down in this game 4 and having a much tougher time in the remaining 2 games of today's day 2.
Oh my gosh, so Salvyy, Skipaeus, Qetzer, don't get too attached to any of them because it's almost certain one of them is going out in 8th, which will almost certainly be a death knell for their chances of getting through to day 3. Qetzer, Skipaeus, Salvyy all looking to hold on. Surely not all of them can survive against Texita. We saw from before with that big one-shot Deja will get a little bit stunned up. The Corki from Qetzer's doing good work on the backside and avoiding nearly all the damage.
Yeah, great positioning to dodge most of those Deja ults. Not this last one, though, but I think that's still going to be enough here. Ida's still alive. Texita getting taken down to 8 HP. Salvyy taken out. Our GSC1 champion not doing so hot in this game 4. But Qetzer does stay alive with great positioning. And now the Battle of the Dragons. The 2 dragons, I think, have really been the reign of terror today. Xiaoyu and Siphon. Xiaoyu gets the win there.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, this means that Salvyy very likely is not gonna see day 3. That is a big disappointment. Of course, we were really hoping for the chance of seeing a 2-time Golden Spatula Cup champion in the same series. Be amazing stuff. As we come to the end of stage 4, we still have a huge separation between the top table and bottom table. 3 remaining members with 1 life. Everybody else sitting pretty with tons of HP.
Kaspersky has to roll for this Sylas 2. Maybe even a Zoe would be fantastic as well. But we're seeing, the building blocks of a Super Nomsy. Zeke's and the Chalice both buffing up this Nomsy now.
So talk to me about Noms, trying to actually use Nomsy as a carry, since this hasn't really been a thing until this patch. I remember from what you were saying yesterday, the positioning of the Nomsy could be incredibly important.
Yeah, you want to get, it works to get a different type of damage that you get from the Siphon. Siphon is very good at burst damage on a single target, whereas Nomsy can, hit a lot of different targets and have that AoE damage coming in. So the balance of having both types of damage is extremely important for most of these comps coming into the late game.
All right, so it's execution time for somebody. Xcrescent's going to be going against Qetzer. It is a level 8 versus level 7. We've got a very good Xcrescent's Jade board, though. Fortunately, again, Corki's going to remain pretty much untouched through most of this round. You can see, though, the death stance on that Xiaoyu. She's incredibly tough to put down, but she is also up against an incredibly tough wall in the Idis. Unfortunately, the immovable force cannot stand in the way of the unstoppable Xiaoyu. The soaking so much damage will eventually fall, but not before everything else does, and Qetzer is heading out of here.
Corki can't do it by himself. Minus 7 HP for Qetzer, ends up getting 6. Skipaeus somehow has once again made it into the top 5 spots with a board that was and is very iffy still. Idis 1 hasn't found that upgrade, doesn't have much gold to work with. Since Theft, Portable Forge, Cybernetic Shell are the augments, so I think he's definitely feeling blessed that he even made it this far when his tank or when his frontline is just really not that much at stage 5.
No, not at all. Yeah, I think absolutely thanking some big lucky stars, especially considering how close everything has been. We will be up against Mirage again. We've been seeing Mirage all tournament long, again and again. The ghostly form this time round. Corki, not going to be the main damage carriers. Unfortunately, that Idis, that 1-star you pointed out, will get blown up pretty quickly. The knockup from the Yasuo is good, and I think Skipaeus might have just crawled through the gap here. The big cast doesn't finish off the job, and the stun means that Skipaeus stays alive again, now on a 4-round win streak.
When you're 5th and you're hoping to top 4, you're thinking, I might do it, it might be okay, but with this board and with the mountain of HP that he has to climb from that 5th spot up to the 4th, currently at 46, I think it's fairly unlikely, even just from a fight RNG standpoint. He finds a Corki 2 that is, of course, massive in dealing a little bit more damage, but ideally he needs to find that Idis 2-star, and he only has that 1 copy on the board right now, so how much longer can he survive here? It's quite a thing, isn't it? This is a tournament situation to be in. How strong is your mental when you get to this point, knowing that it's so unlikely on paper you can make this work? 1-star Idis will take a ton of attention, but we're dealing here with the unkillable Xiaoyu. The Idis surely can't stand for long in the face of all this fury. And if you're on the backline pumping out the damage to back up the Xiaoyu and Skipaeus, you've given us a hell of a show, but this ride is at its end. The healing coming in so clutch from the Hand of Justice, but also from the Gunblade on the Anivia, and that will be Skipaeus bowing out in 5th. I still think he has to be happy with that result. That was I thought, a pretty clear 8th actually going into stage 4 and stage 5. But in the end gets a 5th, so I think still fairly happy. Aug, who was our HP leader, 90 HP, has now fallen all the way down to 37 and is currently 4th in the standings. Is this maybe a game where he is top 4 at the very least, so my prediction did come true, but I thought he would do better than this with how much of an HP buffer he had.
No, he must have been taking some pretty heavy losses at this point, as, again, Travis and Org, they are players who are most in need of points. As we do get to see something interesting here from Travis's board, we're locking down the double Zarot. What do you think about that front line?
all you need to do is stall. You have Archangels, you have a Deja that can deal a lot of damage as we go further into the fight. So Zizirot has been, I think, one of the most underrated items this entire set. I think it's what made Silas and Mage comps so strong as well, and players knew to dip into that item to try and just buy more time. Aoshin comps in a similar way. Any comp that needs to stall to deal damage that scales massively like Deja does in this case with Archangels, Zizirot is going to fit in.
See how it does against Qetzer. Certainly will provide a lot of targets for the Siphon to chew on before getting anywhere near the Deja. Working pretty well so far. There's a fair amount of scaling going through, and the first spike doesn't finish the job. This isn't a full damage Siphon, so it will mean that Deja will chew through. And Travis, they're on a 6. I didn't even notice it was 6-round win streak, putting down a ton of pressure on the remaining 3.
6 win streak, 60 HP, and trying to not just be top 4, but trying to win this game by going level 9 and rolling for those 2-star legendaries and capping out this board as much as you can. Ideally, finding a Yasuo to replace this Yone and to have that 6 Mirage, which is a stronger comp overall. Maybe slotting in a Soraka as well once he does level up.
And it's worth noting again that this is the Duelist Mirage, so effectively all of these Mirage units getting a free Guinsoo's Rage Blade. It's always great to have a main carry where you've got the 4-item setup.
We're seeing now Xiaoyu versus Deja. Deja going to have a very good clump of units to hit down that right diagonal. We'll see if it'll be enough here. Xiaoyu slowly ripping through most of the front line, but look at the damage from the Deja. And the Zizirots buying so much time. The Xiaoyu stuck hitting these small little minions instead of the actual unit he has to be hitting. And that's going to be yet another win for Travis. A very well-constructed comp with perfect usage of Zizirot to continue stalling out that front line.
Yeah, I like what we're seeing there a lot, and you can almost sense the frustration coming through of just being able to get absolutely nowhere near. I mean, we've seen these Xiaoyus with the Assassin's Emblem for that exact reason. Just getting onto the backline for a J comp is a pretty tough ask at the best of times.
Xcrescent can put this QSS onto the Yasuo and is very close to 2 different upgrades. Has that Nico, 2 very important upgrades, especially the Yasuo 2 and the Nico 2. So we'll see if with this extra bit of gold, with maybe a few more natural rolls, he's able to hit these 2 key units and really try. Oh, there's a Nico. Can he hit the Yasuo as well? That is the big question here.
It's a pretty big ask. We'll buy the Pike just to increase the chances ever so slightly, but I will have to settle instead for just the Nico level up, which I think is probably okay. So we're at the beginning of stage 6-1 Panda. We have seen some pretty long brawls here. We've still got 4 players up and running, and Org, from being up on top, as you said before, now the one in most peril of having their early success only turn into a 4th.
And Aug, unfortunately, facing off against the strongest player in the lobby. This could be the death of him. We're seeing another perfect diagonal for this Deja to deal so much damage to every single unit. But now Xiaoyu is getting closer and closer to the DPS carry for Travis. Will the Xiaoyu do enough? He's now, oh no, he's going back to the middle, and that's going to be it. I think the Deja gonna have the perfect down to hit every single unit on the board, one by one, taken down. The Archangel scaling further and further, and Soraka trying to delay the inevitable, but the win will come in for Travis, and Aug will not quite be eliminated, despite this being stage 6, survives on 2 HP.
Oh my gosh. So, we are definitely into the area where you bless your stars for being able to have any Sorakas to push you just that little bit further. For Org, the blessing, I think, just getting them across the line there. As you can see, they're desperately searching for something to make that board a little bit stronger. The 3 Mystic is now in to be able to deal with nearly any amount of magic damage, but much as it was for Skipaeus, this is an uphill struggle.
The extra trait as well with Stand United 2 is going to be pretty massive in terms of getting a little bit of extra stats coming into this. What could be the last fight here, facing off against Xcrescent, the battle of the Jade comps coming in. Anivia fully itemized, where you don't really have a secondary carry for Aug outside of the Xiaoyu, so that could spell trouble. And we're seeing the Xiaoyu already being melted down. Will this be enough for him? Will the Xiaoyu stay alive? If it doesn't, that's going to be GG. And I think the stuns come in from the other Xiaoyu, but they're both still alive somehow. No. If Anivia gets killed here, that might be it. It's going to be so close, the battle of the secondary carries, but Anivia is still alive. The last ult comes through on that clump. Soraka's healing, but I think cannot out-heal the damage coming in from Anivia, and the fight will go in Crescent's favor. Aug taken down in 4th.
I mean, as we're saying, Aug, I think, relatively happy as I think Skipaeus is, are taking not necessarily the first they were hoping for, but at least losses that are good enough to give them a chance, no matter how slim, of still making it through to our final day of play. Travis will grab themselves, however temporarily, a Soraka. I think right now, though, they've lost their win streak, so against the other two players, they know they are not unbeatable.
And Travis, unfortunately, went 9, rolled down, but only found that one Yasuo. So still a little bit far away from really capping out this comp. Has streamlined those easy routes now onto the Leona. And I think Deja's still going to continue doing what she has been doing the entire game, really. Just all the damage coming in from that backline. The diagonals are just so devastating, and Siphon is so far away as well on the other side of the board. Is it going to be enough, or is Deja going to be able to take down all these? I mean, look at Siphon. He's just going right into the backline again. Can Deja do this? It's just so much damage. The bite comes through, but Deja still gets the win. The Polish on Polish fight here going in favor of Travis, and Kaspersky down to 18 HP.
Oh my gosh. So, yeah, Kaspersky, the one who's next up on the chopping block, will grab themselves a blue buff and a pike for their troubles as well. Xcrescent looks like they're going to be trying to make sure they get themselves as much armor as possible in this late game. Travis left with a third choice. Titans still pretty solid.
Need some more stalling, ideally, on that front line. Find the Titan instead. There's a Yasuo pair here, so holding Yasuos, taking them away from Travis in this case. Big plays from Kaspersky. Finds a Soraka 2-star, so finds that upgrade. Now finds a Yasuo 2. Does he want to play it, though?
You gotta do it. You gotta do it. Even if it's just for the insult factor. You got the money. Gonna do it. Gonna bring in the Yasuo. So Kaspersky, they've got themselves a solid shot. They need to get their items down real quick. We're now in Aoshin and Friends territory. Legendaries ahoy. Just not quite as strong legendaries as you would hope for. Yasuo 2 is gonna have to do a lot of work.
Is this dummy and Silas frontline strong enough, though, to buy the time for Aoshin to really pop off, to get his ult going? That's ult number 1 going through. Anivia almost taken down with the Zoe. Shioyu still left alive, though, and he's now about to go into the backline. No health really to work with, though. Shioyu gets taken down. Anivia also being targeted here, and now Kaspersky with these massive upgrades off of the carousel might go into second place and might even fight for the first.
Oh boy, I mean, we saw this from a lot of our lobbies which were being played off stream, that if our players were given the opportunity to cap out their boards in this kind of way, they would absolutely go for it, throw everything else in the bin, get in as many legendaries as possible. Yeah, now we don't have anybody on a win streak at all. Travis up on the 40 will be playing against Xcrescent in the upcoming round. And from Xcrescent, far from seeing them switching up their entire board, they have been staying static for a while, waiting for a Yasuo 2 that may never come.
That's a problem with having just a very vertical comp. 9 Jade here means that you can't really make that many changes without disrupting the comp altogether. And the comp just a little bit further behind the other two comps on display here in the top 3. I think Deja still doing its thing. If Deja can get another big win here on Crescent, he might be the 3rd place player. Shioyu still very healthy, though, but Deja is now targeting both the Anivia and the Shioyu. They're lined up. Can Deja do it with one more blast? I think this dragon definitely can. And Travis, I mean, he has to be so thankful that this board has come together how it has, because he's been strong the entirety of the late game.
Oh boy, what an absolute brawl to end now game number 4, round number 4 of the 6 we're playing here today. Again, for anyone who's come in late, we are trying to determine who will be going through as our top 16 to day 3 to try and compete for the title of Golden Spatula Cup number 2 champion and get that guaranteed spot at the EMEA regional finals.
And the biggest thing for Travis now, he has to find this last Yasuo if he wants to have a good fighting chance of beating Kaspersky, because Kaspersky has gotten so many 2-star legendaries now in this last stage. We're now in stage 7. 3 players are still alive. 3 dragons are still alive. Shioyu, Deja, and Aoshin. And the Aoshin 2 has been presented. Kaspersky continues to hit upgrades. Can Travis match this power?
Oh my gosh.
He can. Yasuo 2.
All right, let's throw down for a brawl for all. Our players, they seem to have pretty much everything they could ask for. Now it just becomes a case of who has got the bigger and stronger end game. We will see the Ghost being played here. Xcrescent is in big trouble. The world has changed around them, and it's looking real scary indeed.
With the Xiaoyu so close to the Aoshin, decides to path towards the middle instead of going right for that Aoshin. The Aoshin cast comes through, the Aoshin 2 rather, so even more damage. Xiaoyu enters the bounce house, and I think he won't be able to leave it. Second Aoshin cast comes through. Big win, big message being sent here from Kaspersky, trying to win out the lobby, and Xcrescent takes third.
Oh boy, will we get to see the Aoshin finally returning to the field? And you know what they say, Panda, you can't spell Aoshin without Ow.
I didn't know that, but now I will, and thankfully I will not have to hear that again now that I've stored this knowledge. But thank you, Peter, for sharing that with me. Aoshin does indeed
You're welcome.
Do a lot of damage to everyone around him. The shower of damage from up in the heavens is hard to survive at this point in the game, and I think even Deja won't be able to do it.
All right, let's see. Fully stacked board against fully stacked board. We've got ourselves a full-on dragon party. This Deja has been an absolute menace, but now they have to face the fury of the storm. We have got a huge stun coming in. The Deja almost drops, but does not, which means a second cast must come, or this is all over, and there's not quite enough time.
Stage 7, but still not enough damage to take down Kaspersky. Deja able to do it for Travis once again. The battle of the Polish players that probably have been playing each other on ladder in Ultra Liga, the Polish National League as well. Players that intimately know each other's play styles and how strong they both are. Two titans of the Polish scene, duking it out in what could be the final fight of this Game 4.
I mean, it's almost gotta be, because firstly you can see they really would love to be able to upgrade their Zoe right now, but they don't have the chance. They've got all the buffs on Nomsy instead, so keep your eyes out on the big dragons. Keep your eyes out for Nomsy as well. Those casts are going to be huge. Unfortunately, the Mirage setup is not allowing for a big Nomsy cast. It's going straight down the middle and barely hitting anybody. First cast from the Aoshin will do a good amount of damage, and this time the Deja drops.
That might be the difference maker. The main damage dealer on the side of Travis has been taken down by that first Aoshin ult. The second one comes through, simply does the cleanup. Travis gets taken down. Kaspersky is our Game 4 winner, but Poland on top, first and second, both secured by one of the strongest countries in TFT for our region for EMEA.
Oh, incredible.